Imagine this. The 2024 NASCAR Cup Series isn't just about speed and strategy anymore. It's about a legal battle that could rewrite the rules of racing forever. 2311 and Front Row Motorsports have just dropped the hammer on NASCAR in a way we've never seen before. Buckle up, because this story is as intense as a last lap battle. 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports have fired a legal shot straight at NASCAR with a lawsuit that could change the course of the sport's future. At the heart of this case, the teams accuse NASCAR of monopolistic practices that control the entire stock car racing ecosystem, preventing fair competition and forcing teams into binding and unfair agreements. The lawsuit claims that NASCAR has taken complete control of the premier stock car racing league, with no room for competitors to grow or thrive. The teams argue that they've been pressured into agreeing to terms that benefit NASCAR, but leave little room for independent success. Both 2311 and Front Row say that NASCAR's grip on things, especially through the charter system, creates an unfair playing field. The case is packed with accusations that could have far-reaching consequences if proven true. But what's the real impact? Will this lawsuit lead to a major change in how NASCAR operates? Or is it just another power play between the big players in the game? Stay tuned. The lawsuit's most shocking accusation is that NASCAR holds a 100% market share in premier stock car racing, making it impossible for any competitors to rise above. 2311 and Front Row argue that NASCAR's control isn't just limited to the races themselves, it extends to every aspect of the sport. From the sponsorships to the TV deals, NASCAR's monopoly creates an impenetrable barrier for other teams or leagues to break into the scene. This monopoly, according to the lawsuit, effectively silences any competition and leaves NASCAR free to dictate terms that heavily favor its own interests. For a sport that thrives on speed, skill, and strategy, the teams argue that the lack of fair competition within the industry is a major blow. The real kicker. 2311 and Front Row's legal team claim that NASCAR is intentionally stifling innovation and preventing other players from entering the arena, pushing out the smaller teams and limiting the growth of the sport as a whole. Can NASCAR be the only game in town? And if it is, should it be? This legal challenge could force NASCAR to answer that very question. At the core of this battle is the charter system that NASCAR uses to manage its teams. The lawsuit claims that NASCAR's charter agreements are rigged with unfair terms, leaving teams like 2311 and Front Row in a bind. These charters, which essentially give teams a guaranteed spot in every race, are one of the most valuable commodities in NASCAR. But according to the lawsuit, they come with some serious strings attached. For starters, the charter system is said to prevent teams from making their own decisions about where and how they want to compete. The terms are allegedly written in such a way that teams are forced to accept NASCAR's terms or risk losing their spot in the race altogether. That's a huge deal in a sport where every race counts. What's worse, teams like 2311 and Front Row argue that NASCAR isn't just dictating the terms of the characters, they're monopolizing the entire process, leaving smaller teams with no room to maneuver. If these teams can't even make a fair profit off of their charters, what does that mean for the future of NASCAR? Is the current system setting up a few big players for success while crushing the competition? This lawsuit could be the wake-up call NASCAR needs to rethink how it does business. One of the big flashpoints in this suit is based around the car, which NASCAR calls NextGen, and which it believes may be one of the most revolutionary steps the sport has taken. So revolutionary that it has invited controversy with teams. The issue is that, in effect, NASCAR dictates the purchase of certain parts from approved sources and claims this restricts teams from part innovation and cost savings. Although it is clearly more standardized and has been designed specifically to help level the playing field, that cost is great. Teams like 2311 and Front Row allege they are chained by rules governing their creativity and flexibility in funding. Because NASCAR regulations allow hardly any way for teams to customize their setups, They are forcefully dictated source parts that may be less affordable or more suited to their production needs. Therefore, it feels as if they have to pay exorbitant prices for parts at a time when they cannot experiment with alternatives. The lingering question: is NASCAR's push toward uniformity hampering progress and innovation in the sport? For whom does it benefit and leave the field? Here's where it gets messier. NASCAR allegedly blocked the sale of charters from Stewart-Haas Racing to 23XI and Front Row, despite initially giving it the green light. At first glance, these charter transfers seemed like just another routine business transaction until NASCAR stepped in and hit pause. Why? Well, according to the lawsuit, it's no coincidence that NASCAR reversed its approval right after 23XI and Front Row launched their legal challenge against the sport's monopolistic practices. The teams argue that this move is an act of retaliation, designed to punish them for challenging the status quo. Blocking these charter sales has a huge impact, as these characters are the lifeblood of a NASCAR team's existence. Without one, a team's future in the Cup Series is uncertain. The drama between NASCAR and these teams has only deepened, and now they're calling out the governing body for using its power to prevent teams from thriving. This situation raises the question: is NASCAR flexing its muscles in a way that puts everything at risk? A serious shifting of gears in the lawsuit as it deals with NASCAR's conduct of retaliation, according to plaintiffs 23XI and 2 Front Row. They disclosed that NASCAR simply changed its views on the charter transfers to block them unless the lawsuit was dropped. The teams argued that abrupt changes in granting charters sanctions to sell are directly said to come as a response to legal action taken against NASCAR. It just happened that from the very beginning, it heralded more of sending a clear message to anyone standing to challenge NASCAR hegemony than business. One of them, by affected teams, is not just influenced, it was said to inflict pain on them. The affected parties, also the buying and selling teams Stewart-Haas Racing and Front Row, claim the blocked deals are financially harmful, causing unnecessary uncertainty about their future. Well, if it does seem that NASCAR would exercise its authority to punish these teams for voicing their protest, it makes way for some serious ethical questions. Is it business then, or is it punishing teams for simply attempting to change the game? This lawsuit might have potential ramifications beyond 23XI and Front Row Motorsports alone. If they break through the alleged monopoly, it would change the course of future stock car racing completely. It could facilitate a more balanced and competitive milieu where teams can survive without stinking overly demanding regulations and monopolistic practices. Smaller teams could rise, and new competitors might stand less of a chance of entering the fray without battling uphill. The lawsuit is far more than current teams alone. It implicates the years to come in a more open and dynamic racing environment. But as charges go, they came fast and furious from NASCAR's side. Exact cacophony. The charter system has led to increased values over time, benefiting teams long-term. Although NASCAR said the teams are using some kind of leverage long-term, lawsuit to introduce better negotiations for themselves and not concern any real gain over the system. Claiming the charter system has brought stability to sport, these teams further argue that their complaints are part of greater ambitions to create a more favorable environment. NASCAR's defense justifies the fact that the sport is in evolution and that the structure remains beneficial for everyone, although some teams may disagree. This legal showdown is far from over, and its outcome could shake NASCAR to its core. What do you think? Are 23XI and Front Row Motorsports justified in their fight, or is this just another power struggle? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more updates.